The ribbon-cutting stage had been set up in the first-floor lobby of the group headquarters. Red silk. Fresh flowers. Rows of cameras from the media. Claire Shaw stood on stage in a white suit, smiling with perfect composure. Below the stage stood more than 300 employees, a dozen media outlets, and several investors who had just gotten off a plane. She picked up the scissors and aimed them at the red ribbon. At that exact moment, Chief Financial Officer Warren rushed in from the side door. His face was as pale as paper. His voice shook. He completely forgot the occasion and shouted directly, "President Shaw, your husband withdrew $900 million at 2 o'clock this morning." The entire room went silent. The scissors stopped in midair. Claire's smile froze on her face, as if someone had pressed pause. She turned to look at me. Everyone turned to look at me. I stood in the very last row of the crowd, holding her handbag. Inside that bag was the lipstick she had left at her male assistant's apartment last night. 3 days earlier. 11 o'clock at night. I had just returned from the company. The living room lights were on. Claire sat on the sofa. In front of her were 2 documents. "Sign them." She pushed the pen toward me. I put down the things in my hands, walked over, and glanced at the papers. Equity transfer agreement. The 12% stake I held in the group would be fully transferred to her. Before the listing, the equity structure has to be cleaned up. Her tone was flat, as if she were explaining something trivial. The securities firm requires it. Joint ownership between husband and wife will affect valuation. I said nothing. I opened the document and read a few pages. "This urgent? Next Wednesday is the bell-ringing ceremony. Do you think it's urgent?" She frowned. "You don't participate in company operations anyway. Those shares are just sitting in your hands." She said it so lightly. We had been married for 6 years. From the first day she started her business, I helped her register the company, paid the rent, and contacted the first client. The first order the company ever received came from a proposal I stayed up 3 straight nights to write. Later, the company grew bigger. She became the president. I stepped back and became the person handling everything behind the scenes. She said we simply had different roles. But everyone knew President Shaw's husband was an unemployed man who did nothing at home. "I'll think about it," I said, closing the file. "What is there to think about?" Her voice rose. "We have to submit the materials by Tuesday. If you think about it, how am I supposed to explain things to the securities firm?" I did not answer. She glanced at me. There was impatience in her eyes, but she did not keep pressing. "Fine. Give me an answer tomorrow." She stood, picked up her phone, glanced at it, and quickly walked into the study. Then she closed the door. I sat in the living room for a while. The soundproof door could not completely block her voice. She was on the phone. Her tone was gentle, carrying a smile. Just finished work tomorrow noon?" "Sure. You pick the place." I did not keep listening. When I went upstairs to shower, I checked my phone. In the call records, over the past month, she had spoken to one number more often than she had spoken to me. The contact name was Leo Mills. Her assistant. 26 years old. Only 2 years out of college. Clean-looking. Sweet-mouthed. Good at handling people. Everyone at the company said Assistant Leo was capable. I had not thought much of it. But that night, I did one thing. I picked up the second phone she had left on the shoe cabinet and glanced at it. She usually did not use that phone much. But recently, she had been carrying it around often. The screen was lit. No lock. At the top of her WhatsApp chats was a contact marked with only one word, Leo. The last message had been sent at 10 that night. "Claire, tomorrow noon at the usual place?" Nothing else. I put the phone down and went back to the bedroom. At 1 in the morning, she still had not come back to the room. I got up to get water. When I passed the study, the door was half open. She was still on the phone. Her voice was very low. But I still heard one sentence. "There won't be a problem on his side. We'll definitely get the shares. We'll talk after the listing." I did not go in. I went back to the bedroom, opened the Notes app on my phone, and wrote one line. Then I slept. The next morning, before she left, she mentioned the documents again. "You have to sign them today." I said okay. She looked at me, probably surprised that my attitude had changed so quickly. But she did not ask further. She left with her handbag. After she was gone, I did not sign the agreement. I went to a law firm. The lawyer's last name was Ford. He was my college classmate and specialized in commercial litigation. I told him what was happening. He flipped through the materials I brought and frowned. Your wife's move sounds nice if you call it equity concentration. To put it bluntly, she is trying to kick you out. I know. Do you know how much those shares will be worth after the listing? I've roughly calculated it. Then what are you planning to do? I did not answer directly. Instead, I asked him, if I don't sign, can she forcibly take them away? No. Joint marital assets require voluntary transfer by both parties. Attorney Ford paused. But if she is determined, there are plenty of ways to force you to sign. For example, she can sue for divorce, freeze assets, and drag you out for years. Or she can use company debt to trap you. I nodded. I had thought of those possibilities. I need you to help me with a few things. Say it. First, check the equity structure of that small company under my name. Confirm whether there is any hidden holding arrangement. Second, pull a complete record of the company's industrial and commercial changes from establishment to now. Third, I paused. Check the background of her assistant, Leo Mills. Attorney Ford glanced at me and did not ask further. Fine. I'll give you results within 3 days. After leaving the law firm, I went to the bank. I had an account under my name. It was opened 6 years ago. There was a sum of money inside. Claire did not know about it. I had not deliberately hidden it from her. It was simply opened before we got married. Later, I never used it, and she never asked. I checked the balance. The number had not changed. But the account status had changed. It showed frozen. I frowned and asked the bank clerk what was going on. The clerk checked and said, this account was placed under asset preservation last month. The court issued the ruling. Who applied for it? The applicant is a company called Prosperbridge Consulting. I had never heard of that company. After walking out of the bank, I stood at the entrance and flipped through the call records saved on my phone again. Over the past 3 months, Claire had called one landline number 5 times. I checked that number. Location, this city. Organization, Prosperbridge Business Management Consulting Company, Limited. I smiled. Not because it was funny. It was a cold smile. So she had even taken this step. That afternoon, when I returned home, Claire was already there. The equity transfer agreement lay on the living room coffee table. Beside it was an additional document. This is a supplemental agreement, she said. After you sign, the company dividends will be paid to you at 15% every year. You won't participate in operations, and you won't bear debt. It sounded fair. But I did not respond. What are you still hesitating about? Her tone grew impatient. After the listing, the company valuation will at least triple. You don't have to do anything, and you'll still receive dividends every year. Isn't that enough? It is. Then sign. I want to wait 2 more days. Wait for what? For you to think clearly. She froze. Then she laughed. That smile held obvious contempt. Ethan Shaw, do you think I can't live without you? I said nothing. I'm telling you, the company got where it is today because of me. Other than staying home, what have you done? I wrote the proposal. What? The proposal for the company's first order was written by me. She froze for a second, then gave a scoffing laugh. Fine. You wrote it. So what? Now the company is mine. That proposal you wrote has long since become waste paper. She stood and looked down at me. Before Tuesday, sign your name. Otherwise, bear the consequences yourself. After saying that, she went upstairs. I sat in the living room for a long time. Then I took out my phone and sent Attorney Ford a message. Did you find anything? He replied quickly. Leo Mills. 26. Local. His parents run a small building materials company. Nothing unusual under his own name. But his mother's company had one business transaction with Prosperbridge Consulting last year. I stared at the screen. Prosperbridge Consulting. The same company that applied to freeze my account. Tuesday morning. Before leaving, Claire placed the documents on the dining table. You must sign today. She did not wait for my reply. She left directly. I sat at the dining table and looked at the agreement. My phone rang. It was Attorney Ford. I found it. Tell me. Prosperbridge Consulting's legal representative is Victor Zhao. He is your mother-in-law's cousin. I paused. So the person who applied to freeze my account is my wife's relative. Yes. Why did they freeze my account? Because there is a 6-year-old transfer record in that account. The sender was a company called Horizon Tech. Horizon Tech? Yes. 6 years ago, that company signed a technology transfer contract with your wife's company. The transfer fee was $90,000. But the receiving account on the contract was under your name. I remembered. 6 years ago, Claire had just started her company and taken on a technology project. But the other party requested payment to a personal account. At the time, she did not yet have the required personal business qualifications, so she used my account to receive the money. After the money arrived, she told me to transfer all of it into the company account. I did not keep a single cent. They are now using that transfer to build a case. They're saying that $90,000 was company property and that you are suspected of embezzlement. Embezzlement? Yes. Although the money eventually went into the company account, the process had flaws. If they insist that you did not follow formal procedure at the time, this matter can be minor or serious. I was silent for a few seconds. They want to use this to force me to sign the equity transfer? Most likely. If you sign, they won't pursue it. If you don't, they may sue you over this. I hung up. I sat at the dining table, looking at the equity transfer agreement. Claire did not know that I had actually kept a backup long ago. For that transfer 6 years ago, I had complete chat records, email correspondence, and bank transfer receipts. Every cent that came in and went out had a record. But I had never taken them out. Because I wanted to see how far she would go. Now it seemed she had gone very far. I picked up my phone and sent Attorney Ford a message. Help me schedule a meeting with Horizon Tech as legal representative. What are you planning to do? Talk. At 3 that afternoon, I met the owner of Horizon Tech in a tea house. His last name was Martin. He was in his 50s, came from a technical background, and spoke very directly. Mr. Shaw, long time no see. Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Martin. He waved his hand. I know why you came. I remember that contract from 6 years ago very clearly. Your wife negotiated it, but the money was transferred into your account. Yes. Later, she transferred the money away, and I didn't ask much. What, is there a problem now? I briefly explained the situation. After listening, Mr. Martin was silent for a while. Your wife wants to use this to control you? Yes. He smiled and pulled up a photo on his phone. Take a look at this. I took it. It was a supplemental agreement. It stated, for the technology transfer contract between Horizon Tech and Claire Shaw's company, the actual executor was Ethan Shaw. Ethan Shaw possessed the right of authorship over all technical achievements under the contract, as well as 30% of future development profits. The date was 6 years ago. The signature belonged to Claire Shaw. I froze. She signed this agreement back then, but she never gave it to you, did she? Mr. Martin said. She never did. I kept an original copy. At the time, I felt you had contributed the most and deserved proof. I looked at the agreement. My emotions churned, but my face remained calm. Mr. Martin, can I borrow this agreement? Take it. I don't need it anyway. I accepted the agreement and thanked him. After leaving the tea house, I stood by the roadside and called Attorney Ford. Prepare a set of materials for me. What materials? An equity confirmation lawsuit. You're going to sue? No. I'm keeping it ready. After hanging up, I returned home. Claire had not come back yet. I entered the study and opened her computer. The password had not changed. It was still our wedding anniversary. I looked through her email. Over the past month, she had exchanged more than a dozen emails with Victor Zhao from Prosperbridge Consulting. The core content was only one thing: how to make me voluntarily sign the equity transfer agreement. In one email, Victor Zhao wrote, "The freezing order on his account has already been issued. He won't find out. As long as he refuses to sign, we will sue him. He's an unemployed man. He won't be able to withstand it." Claire replied with one word, "Good." I closed the email. I sat in the study and looked outside the window. The sky was almost dark. I took out my phone and messaged a number. "Are the materials ready?" The other party replied quickly. "Ready. We can release them anytime. Don't release them yet. Wait for my instruction." Understood. I set down the phone. My heart was very calm. So calm that even I found it surprising. Wednesday. The night before the listing. Claire did not come home all day. At 6 in the evening, she sent me a message. The company has a celebration banquet tonight. I won't come home for dinner. I did not reply. At 9, I drove out. Not to the company. To the apartment complex where Leo Mills lived. Attorney Ford had found the address. I did not go upstairs. I simply parked across from the complex and watched the building. At 10:30, Claire's car drove into the complex. Her own car. I recognized the plate. The car stopped downstairs. She did not get out. A few minutes later, Leo came out of the building and got into her car. The engine remained on. The car stayed parked downstairs for nearly 40 minutes. At 11:15, the engine turned off. Leo got out first. Then Claire got out too. The two of them went upstairs together. I checked the time. Then I started my car and went home. On the road, I made one phone call. What time is the ribbon cutting tomorrow? 10 in the morning. Good. When I got home, I showered and lay in bed. My phone screen lit up. It was a message from Attorney Ford. All materials are ready. Are you sure you want to make your move tomorrow? Sure. Have you thought it through? Once this goes out, the two of you are finished for good. It was finished long ago. He did not reply again. I turned off the light and closed my eyes. But I did not sleep. At 2 in the morning, I got up and opened my computer. I logged into an account I had not used for a long time. Inside that account was 900 million. It was not mine. I was managing it for someone else. I sent one email. Only one sentence. At 2 a.m., withdraw everything. Then I turned off the computer and lay back down. When the sky brightened, I got up and changed into a dark suit. Before leaving, I picked up Claire's handbag from the shoe cabinet. I opened it and glanced inside. There was a lipstick inside. It was not the shade she usually used. I put it back. Then I drove to the group headquarters. The headquarters lobby was packed. Red silk. Fresh flowers. Media cameras everywhere. Claire stood on stage in a white suit, smiling perfectly. Beside her stood Leo Mills. He wore a sharp suit and held the ribbon-cutting tray. Below stood more than 300 employees, a dozen media outlets, and several investors who had just gotten off a plane. I stood in the very last row. No one noticed me. No one greeted me either. Everyone knew I was President Shaw's unemployed husband. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was about to begin. The host warmed up the room, introduced the group's development history, and thanked all guests. Claire went on stage to give her speech. When she spoke, her gaze swept across the audience and paused on me for 1 second. Then it moved away. Thank you all for your support along the way. Tomorrow, we will officially enter the capital market. Thunderous applause erupted. She smiled and picked up the scissors. She aimed them at the red ribbon. At that exact moment, CFO Warren rushed in from the side door. His face was as pale as paper. His voice trembled. He completely forgot the occasion and shouted directly, "President Shaw. Your husband withdrew 900 million at 2 o'clock this morning." The entire room went silent. The scissors stopped in midair. Claire's smile froze on her face. She turned to look at me. Everyone turned to look at me. I stood in the last row of the crowd, holding her handbag. Inside that bag was the lipstick she had left at Leo Mills's apartment last night. I did not hide. I did not panic. I did not explain. I simply looked at her. Then I spoke. My voice was not loud, but the room was silent. Every person heard it clearly. "Claire Shaw, you spent the whole night at Leo Mills's apartment last night. Did you think I didn't know?" Her expression changed instantly. "What nonsense are you talking about? You know whether I'm talking nonsense." Leo stood beside her, his face also turning pale. "Mr. Shaw, you misunderstood. President Shaw came to my apartment last night to discuss work at 1 in the morning." Leo opened his mouth, but no words came out. The audience began stirring. The media lifted their cameras. Flashes snapped non-stop. Claire set down the scissors, her face iron blue. "Ethan Shaw, are you insane? Do you know what day this is?" "I know. The night before the listing." "Then do you know what will happen to the company if you withdraw 900 million? "I know. It will collapse." She stared at me, eyes bloodshot. "What exactly are you trying to do?" I did not answer her. I turned to CFO Warren. "Warren, that 900 million, was it invested in my personal name or in the company's name?" Warren froze, then checked the tablet in his hand. It was directly transferred from your personal account. Then if I withdraw it now, is it legal? Warren opened his mouth. Legal. Claire's face went completely white. Ethan, you can't do this. I can. I looked at her, my tone calm. Claire Shaw, did you think I didn't know about the things you did? You asked Victor Zhao to freeze my account and use a transfer from 6 years ago to force me to sign the equity transfer agreement. You thought I couldn't find out? She froze. How do you know Victor Zhao? Your mother's cousin. The legal representative of Prosperbridge Consulting. Her face shifted from white to green. You also had Leo's mother's company do business with Prosperbridge Consulting, creating fake cash flows to make that 90,000 transfer look like embezzlement evidence. Claire Shaw, I know every step you took. The entire room fell deathly silent. The media pressed their shutters like crazy. Employees looked at one another. The investors' faces turned ugly. Claire stood on stage, lips trembling. When did you investigate this? From the day you asked me to sign the equity transfer. She stared at me, disbelief filling her eyes. So you were pretending all along? Yes. You pretended for half a year? Yes. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. Ethan, if you withdraw 900 million, the company dies. Do you know that you will die too? I know. Then why do this? I looked into her eyes. Because I want you to know where you lost. She froze. I stepped forward. Then I took out my phone and opened a page. I handed it to her. Look at this. She lowered her head. Then her entire body stiffened. On the screen was the supplemental agreement from 6 years ago. It stated, for the Horizon Tech technology transfer contract, the actual executor was Ethan Shaw, and Ethan Shaw was entitled to 30% of future development profits. The signature belonged to her. How do you have this? Mr. Martin gave it to me. Her pupils contracted sharply. You went to find Mr. Martin? Yes. He gave you the agreement? Yes. She stepped backward. Leo reached out to support her. She shook him off. Ethan Shaw, what exactly do you want? I did not answer. I turned to CFO Warren. Warren, how much liquid capital is left on the company's books? Warren checked the tablet, his voice weak. After your 900 million withdrawal, less than 3 million remains. Enough to pay 3 months of salaries? Barely, maybe not. I nodded. Then I looked at Claire. You now have 2 choices. First, cancel today's ribbon cutting and postpone the listing. Sit down with me and settle the accounts. Second, continue the ribbon cutting. But what the stock price becomes after tomorrow's market open is your own problem. She bit her lip and said nothing. Below the stage, investors had already started making phone calls. The media were live streaming. The comments had already exploded. Claire stood on stage like a statue. After a long time, she spoke. Her voice was hoarse. Ethan Shaw, you win. I did not smile. I simply looked at her. No. I haven't won yet. I've only just begun. She walked down from the stage. Her high heels clicked sharply against the marble floor. She stopped in front of me. What other cards do you have? I did not speak. I simply took a folded piece of paper from my pocket. It was a little old. I unfolded it. It was a bank statement. From 6 years ago. It clearly showed 90,000 transferred from Horizon Tech's account into Ethan Shaw's personal account. On the same day, the full amount was transferred into Claire Shaw's company account. Every transaction had a record. She stared at the paper. The light in her eyes went out little by little. You even kept this? I did. Why? Because I knew it would come in handy one day. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. At that moment, Leo's phone rang. He answered. After listening for a few seconds, his face turned deathly pale. President Shaw, the securities firm, said the material review has been suspended. Claire snapped her head toward him. What? They said someone submitted materials for an equity dispute lawsuit. The listing process must be suspended. She slowly turned back to me. You sued? Yes. When? This morning. The scissors in her hand fell to the floor. Metal struck marble with a crisp clang. The lobby was silent for about 10 seconds. Then it exploded. Investors stood up directly, faces dark, and began walking out with their phones. What the hell is going on? A 900 million withdrawal, equity litigation, and the president's private scandal on the night before listing? Can this company still be touched? Contact legal immediately. Assess the risk. The media became even more excited. Cameras aimed at me. Microphones were almost shoved into my face. Mr. Shaw, may we ask the specific reason for your withdrawal? How many shares do you currently hold? Are you and President Shaw separated? Do you have evidence of the overnight stay you mentioned? I did not answer. I only looked at Claire. She stood on stage. Her white suit looked painfully bright under the lights. But her face was even whiter than the suit. Ethan Shaw, what exactly are you trying to do? Her voice shook. I told you. Settle accounts. What accounts? 6 years of accounts. I turned to CFO Warren. Warren, do you have all dividend records from the company's founding to now? Warren froze, then nodded. Yes. Print a copy. He glanced at Claire, hesitating. Go, I said. Warren gritted his teeth and left. Claire tried to stop him, but it was too late. Ethan Shaw, don't go too far. Too far? I looked at her. When you asked Victor Zhao to freeze my account, did you think about going too far? When you had Leo's mother's company create fake cash flows, did you think about going too far? When you forced me to sign the equity transfer agreement, did you think about going too far? She opened her mouth but could not speak. Beside her, Leo's phone rang again. He answered. After a few seconds, his expression grew even uglier. President Shaw Prosperbridge Consulting is being investigated. Claire snapped her head toward him. What? Tax inspectors showed up this morning. She stared at Leo, then slowly turned back to me. You reported them? Yes. You won't even spare Victor Zhao? He moved against me first. She took a deep breath, trying hard to steady herself. Ethan Shaw, what exactly do you want? Money? Shares? Name a number. I don't want money. Then what do you want? I want you to admit one thing. What? The company did not get where it is today because of you alone. She froze. What do you mean? The first proposal was written by me. The first client was negotiated by me. When the company was at its hardest point, I used my own savings to pay wages. You have never admitted any of that. She fell silent. Below the stage, employees began whispering. Wasn't President Shaw's husband unemployed? I heard from old employees that early on, he really was the one who handled business. Then how did it become President Shaw's work alone? Who knows? Claire bit her lip and said nothing. At that moment, Warren returned with a stack of printed papers. Mr. Shaw, these are all dividend records since the company was founded. I took them and flipped through several pages. Then I looked up at Claire. 6 years. 12 dividend distributions. Total, 7.2 million. I did not receive a single cent. Yes, she admitted. Why? Because you did not participate in operations. The equity agreement says I am a shareholder. She said nothing. Claire Shaw, when did you remove me from the dividend list? She was silent for a long time. Then she said, 3 years ago. Why 3 years ago? She did not answer. So I answered for her. Because 3 years ago, you met Leo Mills. Her face changed. What nonsense are you talking about? You know whether it's nonsense. I turned to Leo. Assistant Leo, you joined 3 years ago. Your annual salary went from $22,500 to $120,000. You were promoted faster than anyone else in the company. Why? Leo's face turned pale. I'm capable. Capable? I smiled faintly. Then explain this. Why were you responsible for that major project last year? Because President Shaw trusted me. Trusted you? I looked at him. Who wrote that project proposal? He froze. It was me. Are you sure? His gaze began to dodge. Should I pull up the original file? He stopped speaking. At that moment, an old employee below the stage suddenly spoke. I saw the first draft of that proposal. Ethan Shaw wrote it. The entire room went silent. Claire suddenly turned toward that employee. What did you say? The old employee was startled, but still said, for that major project 3 years ago, Ethan Shaw wrote a proposal. I was a project assistant at the time, so I saw the document. Later, Assistant Leo took over the project, and the proposal's name was changed. Claire's face completely changed. She turned to Leo. Is what he said true? Leo panicked. President Shaw, it isn't like that. I revised that proposal. Revised? I interrupted him. What did you revise? The cover page? Leo opened his mouth, but no words came out. Claire looked at him. Her eyes shifted from shock to disappointment. Then to anger. Leo Mills, tell me the truth. Leo lowered his head and said nothing. But everyone understood. The room exploded again. So the project proposal was written by Ethan Shaw? Then wasn't Leo stealing credit? Did President Shaw know? If she knew, why did she promote Leo so fast? Then did she know or not? The discussion grew louder and louder. Claire stood on stage as if all her dignity had been stripped away. She looked at me, her voice trembling. You knew all along? Yes. Then why didn't you say it earlier? Because I wanted to see whether you would discover it yourself. She fell silent. After a long while, she spoke. I didn't. I know you didn't. Then why say it now? To make me embarrassed? No. Then what do you want? I looked into her eyes. I want you to see clearly what kind of person is standing beside you. She turned to look at Leo. Leo kept his head lowered and did not dare look at her. She took a deep breath. Then she said something that shocked everyone. Leo Mills, you're fired. Leo froze. President Shaw, pack your things and leave. Now. President Shaw, I do not make me say it twice. Leo's face turned pale. His lips trembled as if he wanted to say something. In the end, he said nothing. Under everyone's gaze, he turned and walked out of the lobby. The door closed behind him. Claire stood on stage and looked at me. Are you satisfied now? Not yet. She frowned. What else do you want? Victor Zhao's matter is not over. You've already reported him. What else do you want? It wasn't me reporting him. The law found him. You Claire Shaw, do you think Victor Zhao merely helped you freeze my account? She froze. What do you mean? He used your company as guarantor to borrow $3 million from the bank. What? You didn't know? Her expression changed. Impossible. He told me it was just a procedural step. Procedural? I smiled. Did you sign a guarantee agreement? She opened her mouth and said nothing. But her expression gave me the answer. She had signed. Claire Shaw, you signed a guarantee agreement without even reading its contents? He is my mother's cousin. He wouldn't hurt me, he wouldn't hurt you. I looked at her. Then why did the bank call me this morning and say that loan has been overdue for 3 months? Her pupils contracted violently. Impossible. Should I call the bank now and let them explain it to you? She said nothing. But her hands began trembling. Claire Shaw, you signed a guarantee agreement. The loan is overdue. The bank has the right to freeze the company's accounts. And you still want to list tomorrow? She looked as if all strength had been drained from her body. She stepped back, missed her footing in her high heels, and nearly fell. Warren hurried to support her. President Shaw. She pushed him away and looked at me. When did you know? 3 days ago. Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Because I wanted you to discover it yourself. She was silent. After a long time, she asked, Ethan Shaw, how much else do you know? A lot. For example, the down payment on the apartment your mother bought last year came from the company account. For example, your brother's car was financed under the company's name. For example, the monthly bonus you gave Leo all came from project funds. Every time I said one sentence, her face went one shade paler. How do you even know these things? Because I have the accounts. What accounts? I recorded where every cent went. She stared at me as if looking at a stranger. How long have you been recording? 3 years. She fell silent. So did the entire lobby. Everyone looked at me as if I were a monster. I did not care. I turned to Warren. Warren, is the $3 million left on the company's books enough to cover the interest on Victor Zhao's loan? Warren calculated. It can cover about 3 months. And after 3 months? Warren said nothing. But everyone knew the answer. After 3 months, either the company found new funding, or it went bankrupt. Claire looked at me, eyes bloodshot. Ethan Shaw, what exactly do you want? I told you. Settle accounts. And after that? We'll talk after that. She took a deep breath. Fine. Tell me how to settle them. First, the equity transfer agreement is void. Fine. Second, repay the dividends owed to me over the past 3 years according to my equity ratio. She gritted her teeth. Fine. Third, I looked at her. You publicly apologize for what happened between you and Leo. She froze. You want me to publicly apologize? Yes. Impossible. Then there's nothing to talk about. She stared at me, eyes full of anger. Ethan Shaw, don't go too far. I'm going too far. I looked at her. When you stayed overnight at your male assistant's apartment, did you think about going too far? When you asked me to sign the equity transfer agreement, did you think about going too far? When you removed me from the dividend list, did you think about going too far? She said nothing. Claire Shaw, I am not trying to destroy you. I only want you to admit that you were wrong. She was silent. For a long time. Then she spoke. Her voice was hoarse. Fine. I'll apologize. Claire's apology did not happen on the spot. She said she needed time to prepare. I did not force her. Because I knew she was not sincerely apologizing. She was only buying time. But I did not care. Because I still had cards left. That afternoon, I received Attorney Ford's call. There's progress on Victor Zhao. Tell me. The bank has officially applied to the court to freeze Prosperbridge Consulting's assets. 3 properties and 2 cars under Victor Zhao's name have all been seized. What about him? He has been taken away. Suspected of loan fraud. I nodded. What about Claire's company? The bank hasn't moved yet. But the guarantee agreement was signed by her. If Victor Zhao cannot repay the loan, the company account will eventually be frozen. How long? 1 month at the fastest. That's enough. After hanging up, I sat at home and flipped through my phone. On the screen was Claire's message. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, company conference room. I will publicly apologize. I did not reply. She sent another message. Ethan Shaw, do we really have to go this far? I still did not reply. She sent a third message. We've been married for 6 years. Do you really have no feelings left? I looked at that message and was silent for a long time. Then I replied with one sentence. When you stayed overnight at Leo's apartment, did you have feelings left? She did not reply again. At 9:50 the next morning, I arrived at the company. The conference room was full. Executives. Employee representatives. Several investors. 2 media outlets. Claire sat at the head seat. In front of her was a prepared statement. When she saw me enter, her eyes were complicated. I did not speak. I sat in the last row. At exactly 10, she stood. She picked up the statement. Today, I am here to explain the recent matters to my husband, Ethan Shaw, and to all company employees. She paused. First, regarding the equity transfer agreement. It was my poor judgment to force Ethan Shaw to sign before the listing. I put pressure on him, and for that, I apologize. Second, regarding company dividends. Over the past 3 years, Ethan Shaw, as a company shareholder, did not receive the dividends he was entitled to. This was my mistake. I will repay all owed dividends within 1 week. Third, she paused and took a deep breath. Regarding my relationship with assistant Leo Mills. The conference room went quiet. Everyone looked at her. I admit that I acted inappropriately in handling my relationship with a subordinate. For this, I apologize to Ethan Shaw and to all company employees. After finishing, she bowed. Sparse applause sounded in the conference room. But most people did not clap. They looked at me. I stood. Claire Shaw, are you done? She looked at me. I'm done. Then I have one question. Ask. Did anything happen between you and Leo Mills? She froze. The conference room went quiet again. Ethan, this question you only need to answer. Yes or no. She was silent. For a long time. Then she spoke. No. I looked at her. Are you sure? I'm sure. I nodded. Then I took out my phone. I opened an audio recording. And pressed play. In the recording, it was Claire's voice. Leo, don't go back tonight. Then came Leo's voice. President Shaw, this doesn't seem right, what's wrong with it? He won't know anyway. The recording ended. The conference room was deathly silent. Claire's face changed from white to green. From green to purple. When did you record this? Guess. She stared at me, fear filling her eyes. Ethan Shaw, you monitored me? No. I just placed a recorder in your car. You Claire Shaw, you said no. Then what is this recording? She said nothing. Everyone in the conference room looked at her. Their eyes shifted from sympathy to contempt. She stood there like a shattered statue. After a long time, she spoke. Her voice was hoarse. Ethan Shaw, you won. You completely won. Claire's apology meeting turned into a farce. The media released the audio content. The internet exploded. The top trending topic: Claire Shaw cheated with her male assistant. Second trending topic: CEO's husband withdraws $900 million before listing. Third trending topic: audio recording exposed. The company had not even listed yet, but it had already collapsed. The securities firm directly announced, the listing process was suspended indefinitely. Investors collectively withdrew. Employees panicked. Claire locked herself inside her office and did not come out for the entire day. I did not go find her, because I knew she needed time to digest everything. But I had no time to wait for her. That afternoon, I went to the bank. That $900 million I withdrew was not actually mine. It belonged to a friend I managed money for. His name was Martin Rivers, the owner of Horizon Tech. 6 years ago, when he worked with me, he said something: "Ethan Shaw, you are reliable. If I ever have money in the future, I'll let you manage it." Later, he really did give me a sum of money. $900 million. He said, "Use it however you want. If you lose it, it's on me. If you earn from it, it's yours." I never used it. It stayed in the account. Until 3 days ago. That was when I moved it. Not to make money, but to let Claire Shaw understand where she had lost. After leaving the bank, I received Martin's call. "Is it done?" "It's done." "What about the money?" "It has already been transferred back to your account." "Good." He paused. "Ethan, what are you planning next?" "I don't know. Want to come to my company? I need a vice president." I smiled faintly. "We'll talk." After hanging up, I returned home. Someone was sitting in the living room. Claire Shaw. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hair was messy. The white suit was wrinkled. When she saw me enter, she stood. "Ethan, let's talk." "About what?" "About divorce." I looked at her. "You've thought it through?" "Yes." "What are your conditions?" "The company goes to you. I leave with nothing." I froze. "What did you say?" "The company goes to you. I want nothing." "Why?" She lowered her head. "Because I now know the company got to where it is today because of you. Without you, I am nothing." I was silent. After a long time, I spoke. "Claire Shaw, do you know what disappointed me the most?" She looked up at me. "It wasn't your affair. It wasn't you forcing me to sign the equity transfer. It wasn't you removing me from the dividend list. It was the fact that you never acknowledged what I had done." She froze. 6 years ago, I negotiated the company's first client. I wrote the proposal for the first order. When the company was at its hardest point, I paid the wages. You never once said thank you for any of it." She lowered her head. Tears fell. "I'm sorry. It's too late for that." She looked at me. "Then what do you want?" "I don't want anything. I only want you to know what you lost." She was silent for a long time. Then she asked, "Ethan, can we start over?" I looked into her eyes. "No." She said nothing. She turned and left. The door closed behind her. I stood in the empty living room for a while. Then I picked up my phone and sent Attorney Ford a message. "Prepare the divorce agreement." He replied quickly. "Have you decided?" "Yes." "Okay." I put down the phone. Outside the window, the sky was almost dark. 1 month later, Claire's company officially filed for bankruptcy liquidation. Victor Zhao was sentenced to 5 years for loan fraud. Leo Mills was blacklisted by the industry and never found another job. Claire's mother moved back to her hometown after the apartment she bought with company funds was seized. Her brother's car was repossessed too. Everything returned to the starting point. As for me, I moved out of that house. I rented a small apartment downtown. It was not large, but it was clean. Martin Rivers called me. "Ethan, have you thought it through? Come to my company." "Okay. When can you start?" "Next week." "Good. I'll wait for you." After hanging up, I stood on the balcony and looked at the traffic below. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered. "Hello? Mr. Shaw? I'm Claire Shaw's lawyer." "What is it?" "Ms. Shaw asked me to tell you that she has signed the divorce agreement. The property division will be handled according to your terms." "Okay. There is one more thing." "Go ahead." "Ms. Shaw asked if she could see you one last time." I was silent for a few seconds. "No need." I hung up. I put the phone into my pocket. Then I went downstairs and walked to a buffet restaurant on the corner. The sign read, 299 yuan per person. Unlimited seafood buffet. I walked in and sat by the window. A waiter came over. Sir, how many? One. Okay. Here is your bill. I took the bill. It said, 299 yuan. I smiled. I took out my phone, snapped a photo, and posted it to my feed. Cut losses in time, starting from 299. The post quickly received over 100 likes. In the comments, someone asked, Ethan, what does this mean? I did not reply. But I knew someone would understand. Claire Shaw would definitely understand. Because this buffet restaurant was where we had our first date. Back then, she had just graduated. I was still in graduate school. Neither of us had money. She said she wanted to eat seafood buffet. I said okay. Then we saved 2 months of living expenses and finally gathered enough 299 yuan. That night, she ate very happily. She said, Ethan, when we have money in the future, let's come here every day. I said, okay. Later, we really had money. But she never mentioned this restaurant again. Until today. I came alone. Sitting in the same seat. Looking at the same menu. But across from me, there was no one anymore. I finished eating, paid the bill, and walked out of the restaurant. Outside, light rain was falling. I did not open an umbrella. I walked along the street. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Attorney Ford. The divorce agreement has taken effect. You're free. I stopped and looked at the words on the screen. Then I replied, it isn't freedom. It's cutting losses in time. He replied with a smiling face. I smiled too. I put the phone into my pocket and kept walking forward. The rain grew heavier. But I did not look back. Because I knew some roads could only be walked alone. And some losses should be cut as early as possible. That's all for today's story. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment.